Joining us now, Corey Lewandowski. He's the author of 2 New York Times blockbuster bestsellers, Let Trump Be Trump and Trump's Enemies. Amazon, you can buy them, favorite bookstore, or real easy, go to my website, johnfredericksradio.com. There's little ads for them right there. You click on it, take it to Amazon. You're good to go. Buy them now. Best reads out there, especially after the Mueller report. You have got to read Trump's Enemies because that really ties the whole thing together. Former campaign manager for the Trump campaign, and he is with us now. Corey, great to have you.
It's great to be back with you this morning, John. Good morning.
Corey, we have a crisis at the border. We've got the mother of all caravans coming. Here's the reality. The laws that have been passed, we are powerless to do anything to stop these people. As soon as they get a foot in, you can't deport them. You can't get them out. We've got over 1 million illegals that are going to come in this year alone. Those are the ones that we're aware of. There's probably 5x that coming. We don't even know that they're here. The president, frustrated, can't get cooperation from the Mexican government. He's said he's evaluating just shutting down the ports of entry and the total border in order to get Mexico's attention. What say you?
I say, John, we are not a nation if we don't control our borders. And we know we have a crisis. The president has tried now for 2.5 years to solve the crisis on the border. And it takes drastic action sometimes for drastic situations, which tells me that the Democrats have not been willing to give him the money necessary to secure the border, so he's had to use an emergency declaration. But that is still going to take time to secure that border. And so if the president believes, and the national security apparatus tells us, that the only way to prevent additional illegals from coming into this country improperly is to close the border, close the ports of entry, and make sure that we have a airtight community, then I will support that. Now, I do caution us because of the economic impact it could have of slowing commerce down and potentially making sure that American citizens who are traveling from South America and other places still have access to our country. We have to make sure of that. But when we close the border, we're talking about closing the ports of entry and sealing the border to people who shouldn't be here. Right now, we don't have the capacity to do that. We don't have the manpower to do it. We need more Border Patrol agents. We need a barrier, a petition, a wall, whatever you want to call it, on that southern border so that we can make sure that just like every other country in the world, we know who's coming in and where they're coming in from.
So we don't really have the resources. So that's one of the criticisms of it is that all they'll do is take the migrants, the illegals, they'll put them on buses or trucks or whatever. They'll dump them off, 50 miles down the road where there's no barrier except a rope. They just jump over it, then they're good to go. Meantime, you stop the commerce. So we don't have the resources. So it's like what's frustrating here, Corey, and I want to get you to weigh in. Every single option that we look at, because of the laws the Democrats have passed, which are a basically magnet to get people in because they're all protected, every opportunity, everything we look at is flawed. I mean, nobody can find an answer for this.
Well, John, the reason for that is because for 30 years, we've done nothing about the crisis, and the crisis is now spiraled out of control. Look, if we had a plan in place, and go listen to Jay Johnson, who was Barack Obama's Director of Homeland Security. He knows there's a crisis on the southern border. He's articulated it now on numerous occasions, but there is no quick fix, and that's really what we have inherited as an administration. What this president inherited was 30 years of talking about solving a problem, but never really doing it. And now he is resolved and committed to making sure that when he leaves office in 5.5 years, our border is secure, that we know who's coming in, that we don't have these caravans just pouring in from other countries. And what this president has said is if the countries who we are giving foreign aid to aren't willing to help us control the people who are coming from their country and encouraging them to come to the United States, then we will cut their foreign aid. And the only thing I think sometimes these countries understand is the pocketbook issues. And once we start cutting foreign aid, they will understand that they need to control what their residents are doing and not encouraging them to come to the United States. It's really the only solution, John, because if we continue down this path, we don't know if there are 5 million illegal aliens in this country, 10 million. Some say there could be as many as 30 million. Nobody knows, and that's a disservice to our country.
Well, look, we understand there's 1,000 a day that are now coming. And the thing is, Corey, when they apprehend them, they talk about the number of apprehensions they had last month, which is they're all historic numbers. DHS also says that in reality, we're only apprehending 1 out of 5. So if you say, well, we apprehended 50,000 of them, well, that means there's another 250,000 that we can't find them. They just came in and they were able to elude the authorities. So this is a crisis. Now we've got this other caravan coming from Honduras and South America that's bigger than ever because nothing that we have done has succeeded. And they're saying, look, just keep coming over because we're going to be protected by various U.S. laws, by the Ninth Circuit Court. And it's like open season. Just come in. And basically, if you step 1 foot in the U.S., you can't, and you have a minor child, you can't get out. You have more laws that protect you when you come over with a minor child than you have of being illegal. That's the issue. And with a Democratic-controlled Congress now, there's no way out of this.
John, they don't want to solve the problem. The president has offered on numerous occasions, just simply give us the money for the wall, and we will put a path in place for the people who are here illegally or through no fault of their own to, become upstanding citizens. The Democrats don't want to do that because it's an issue that they think helps them with the electorate, which is, vilifying the president, even though this president's done everything he can to try and solve the crisis. We have a humanitarian crisis on the southern border. We know that we have smuggling going on. We know that coyotes make a living down there. We know, unfortunately, the terrible things that they're doing to the women and the children who are trying to escape and come into this country. We have a drug crisis. We know that fentanyl is pouring across the southern border, a drug that is killing Americans every single day. And we know that we've got a homeland security crisis and a national security crisis because we don't know who is in our country illegally. And once they enter this country, we don't know where they go. And even when we catch them, John, we give them a piece of paper and we say, hey, come on back to court, 4 weeks from today. And guess what? You wouldn't believe it. They all just disappear. They don't really care. They're not following the laws. And if you want to listen to the pundits with the legacy media, you know what they say? Well, these people aren't committing crimes at any higher of a rate than others. Well, look, pick up the Oklahoma newspaper today, and we see another story, unfortunately, of an illegal alien who was deported on multiple occasions, who came back here and killed an American family. It happens just too often, and it is the president's sworn duty when he put his hand on the Bible and raised it to give his pledge to protect all citizens from enemies, both foreign and domestic. And that's what this president is supposed to be doing, protecting American citizens from those people who are coming over here and killing us. We have to do better. We're the greatest country in the world. This is a crisis that should have been solved a long time ago. But now, if it takes closing the border for a period of time, I don't love it because of the impact on the commerce side of things, but we have to do something to protect Americans.
I agree with you, Corey. I think we have to get everyone's attention, including the government of Mexico. And I think this is the only way to do that, so that they have to do something. There has to be some action here because the status quo is to do nothing, and it just continues on. And it's getting bigger and worse every single day. Look, even DH Secretary Nielsen had a trip overseas. She cut that back to come back to try to reorganize, reshuffle whatever staff she has to get the protection there. But the president has to do something dramatic, I believe, you're right, in order to get the attention of these other governments. And meantime, Corey, I want to get your reaction to this. Democratic presidential candidates are simply calling for open borders. Basically, they're saying do nothing. You got Beto O'Rourke, whatever his name is, Robert Francis or something, saying that whatever barriers we have should be torn down. Everybody should be allowed to come in. So it looks like we're going to go into 2020 with the Democrats running on a platform of what? They don't want a country. I don't get where they're going with this. Do you?
John, it's so simple. Look, if you looked at the Associated Press report of Robert Francis O'Rourke's, who they call Beto, right? His release, his launch for his presidential campaign, they said he spoke in his native tongue of Spanish. Okay? That's what they said. He is not Spanish, just so we're clear. His name is Robert Francis O'Rourke. The guy is as Irish as it gets, okay? And the media wants to call this guy, Hispanic because he's from Texas. Look, I can go to Puerto Rico tomorrow, but that doesn't mean my name is Carlos, okay? It's Corey. That's what it is, John. It's revisionist history, and the reason that the media wants to give Robert Francis O'Rourke this platform is because he is a white man who they believe is in line with open borders, because he is, like the entire Democratic Party is, open borders, no rules, free everything for everybody, free health care, free education, supporter of the Green New Deal. Look, that's where these guys are, and they're so out of touch with reality that they need the media to prop them up so that they can get rid of Donald Trump once and for all. But the bottom line is, if it's Bernie Sanders or it's Elizabeth Warren or it's Robert Francis O'Rourke, these people are so far to the left that the American people will never support their socialist agenda, because that's really what they are. The American people do not want open borders. The American people do not want people pouring across their country and taking jobs illegally. The American people want the people like our families who came here legally, who did it the right way, who paid their dues, and I know this is going to be controversial, who assimilated to the American culture. Look, where I grew up, John, in Lowell, Massachusetts, we had a little area in the town called Little Canada, where all the French Canadians came. My grandparents' families all came there. They all spoke French. But after generation, right, guess what? My grandparents spoke more English than they did French, and that was always the case. It's different now, and if you say those things, you're chastised by the media for saying people should have to assimilate. And Robert Francis O'Rourke and Elizabeth Warren, the woman who pretended she was Native American so she could gain access to every prestigious law school in the country, they want open borders. They want free things for everybody else. That's why the Democrats have no ideas, and ultimately that's why they're going to lose the 2020 election with a larger margin than they lost the 2016 election.
I agree with that. I think the president is going to get reelected. He's going to win again, Corey, only bigger. I agree with that 100%, especially after that rally you went to in Michigan. Share a little inside baseball with us on that.
Well, John, I had a special privilege. I had the opportunity to fly out on Air Force One. That never, ever gets old, to spend time with the president talking about it. It was the first real rally of the 2019 year. It was a phenomenal event. There had to be 15,000 people in the arena, probably another 10,000 outside. And I heard something at the rally from the crowd, which I had not heard before, because I hadn't been to a rally since the 2018 campaign season ended, because we hadn't done any. And I heard the chant, 4 more years. And it was really the first time I had heard it. And the crowd broke into that chant on so many occasions, just because of the sheer excitement of the work that this president has done. I had a guy came over to me, and he was probably about maybe 27, 28 years old, clearly a blue-collar guy, and I can say that, John, because I've been a blue-collar guy my whole life, growing up in a blue-collar town. And he said to me, hey, and he pointed at me, and he said, come here. And I walked right to the edge of the rope line, and he said, I need you to do something for me. I said, yes, sir, what do you need? He said, I need you to tell President Trump to keep fighting, because it's not for me. And he had a little baby with him who couldn't have been more than a year old, and his wife. And he said, we waited in line for 8 hours so that my son can have a better future. I drove 3 hours to get here. Will you please tell the president to keep fighting for me? And it's the one message, John, that I travel around this country. I was in Gulfport, Mississippi last week. I was in New Orleans last week. I was in Michigan last week. I was in Chicago last week. It's the one message that I consistently get, whether I was in Nebraska the week before or Topeka, Kansas. Tell the president to keep fighting, because the barrage of bad press that he has received has never happened before. But the American people love a fighter. They love Donald Trump, and that's the one thing they always tell me. And I said to the president, sir, you're winning. When you're on stage and you're going directly to the American people, you're winning. And it was a very, very high-energy event, and it was really special to be there.
I tell you what, I appreciate that. And I got a text here I want you to read from Caleb in Virginia Beach. Caleb says, shout out to Corey Lewandowski, to Marshfield, Massachusetts. I'm French Canadian, and my family was too. We may be related to Corey. That's from Caleb in Virginia Beach. So you got a little network there of French Canadians, Corey, going.
Very possible. We're all related. So everyone who's ever been through Lowell, Massachusetts is related somehow. I can tell you that. And the French-Canadian family, my family came down, and as a matter of fact, my wife did also. And so we're related to a lot of French-Canadians. And look, these people worked hard, as every other immigrant who came here worked hard. But they did it legally, John, and that's the big difference, right? I don't think it was easy. I don't think it was exciting. But they did it the right way. And that's all we're asking for. We're not asking for anything other than, hey, there's a lot of people in this world who live in really crummy places, who really don't have a great life. But that doesn't mean you get the right to just pack up and go wherever you want without following the rules. Can you imagine if American citizens just decided, hey, you know what? This isn't the greatest country in the world anymore. We're going to go move into Saudi Arabia or Qatar without telling them. We're just going to show up there and live there. What would happen, John? It wouldn't even be a question, right? You'd probably be in jail. You'd probably be arrested.
Be in jail.
And, that's what would happen. I mean, look, when journalists cross a border into the wrong country and they're apprehended, people are like, what are you guys doing? But now we've got tens of thousands, if not millions, of illegals crossing our border on a yearly basis, and the media's answer is, oh, that's okay. Don't worry about it.
Right, you never see them again. You never see them again. It is really unbelievable what is going on. Corey, final question here. We're almost out of time. I had former governor of Virginia, Terry McAuliffe, on my show yesterday for an hour. He was on two segments, wide-ranging interview. Do you think he'll run for president?
I think the problem that he has is probably the same, not the only same problem that Joe Biden has, right? But the problem that Terry McAuliffe has is he governed as a moderate in the state of Virginia. And look, is he as close as thick as thieves to the Clinton operation? You bet he is. But the Democrats will not nominate a moderate to be the president of the United States. So I think Terry's ultimately going to look at this and not see a path forward, which is too bad, because if the Democrats were smart, they'd be looking at finding more people like Terry McAuliffe or this mayor from South Bend, Indiana, Pete Buttigieg, who's a fairly moderate guy. People like that could actually play in the heartland, because Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, Robert Francis O'Rourke, Bernie Sanders, they cannot win Michigan. They cannot win Pennsylvania. They cannot win Ohio. They cannot win Wisconsin. They will likely lose Minnesota. They will definitely lose Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina. And so the map for the Democrats just continues to shrink while it grows. And John, I'm telling you, this is reminiscent of the 1984 Reagan reelection campaign. Ronald Reagan went out and won 49 states. You can't do that today, but it's because the Democrats nominate a far-left socialist as their nominee. They're going to make the same mistake again in 2020, and Donald Trump is going to cruise to a second term in the White House.
I agree with you on that, and that's that I think 100% he's going to win again, only bigger, and I think you're right on. Corey Lewandowski, thanks for being with us. Buy his book, Let Trump Be Trump, Trump's Enemies, Amazon, or your favorite bookstore. Corey Lewandowski, thanks for being with us. Corey.
Thank you.